Hello everybody, here we are today doing my Week 7 CFL picks and getting into that. So before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last week, I do think I ended up going 2-2 and was another week where I was basically average. This has not really been my year. 2021, I feel like I was pretty good. 22, not too bad. Last year wasn't great. This year it seems to be more hovering towards mediocrity, but I do enjoy doing these. And this week, I have a lot of great storylines to talk about for these games, so let's get on into it. So the first game of the week might just be the most intriguing to me, and that's because you have the Edmonton Elks traveling to Ottawa to play the Red Blacks. Probably wondering why an 0-5 team playing a 3-2 team would be super intriguing to me, but that is because, of course, Chris Jones has been fired as the head coach and the GM of the Edmonton Elks. And I might do a video over that a little bit later, talking about the downfall, if you will, as Jones was in charge of this team for, 2.5 seasons. They went 8-33, never posted more than 4 wins in a season. Last year, it looked like things were going to be getting better for them, and they won 4 games in a row, and then they lost like the last 4 or 5 games of the year. And this year, we're able to lose all 5 of their games by, I believe, a combined score of 20 points. So you can't spell Elks without L, unfortunately, and there's been plenty of L's in recent years for this team, even though Jones was brought in to revitalize the franchise and then get them back to where they were not too long ago, which was competing for Grey Cups. Now you get to see a team that could theoretically bounce back after their head coach is gone. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I can tell you this. It's going to be really fun to see whether or not Edmonton can actually pull off their first win against a team like Ottawa, where Drew Brown ended up throwing for a ton of yards. I believe he had 3 receivers last week that had receptions of over 60 yards or more. And I do think this is a really big game for Ottawa because, yes, they're 3-2, but I believe 2 of their wins have come on last-second field goals where they could theoretically be 1-5 on the year. Or I guess they could be, what? No, the math is actually 1-4, but either way you're looking at this, you see an Ottawa team that could match the amount of wins they had from last season to this season in a much shorter amount of time. They are a very, very fun team to watch this year, for better or worse. I don't exactly know what will transpire, but I do think if they pick up a win here against Edmonton, being 4-2, even if they picked up just 4 more wins along the way during the rest of the season, you'd have to think they're going to be a playoff team, hopefully. So I think this is going to be a big matchup to see if Edmonton still got fight in them about a third of the way through the year with 2/3 left to go, and if Ottawa is able to, again, try to get a true and great win where they're able to back it up with multiple really good wins throughout the year, instead of being a team where you're like, they only really win on a lot of games that are close. We will see, and I'm hoping for a high-scoring affair with a lot of passing yards in this one. And then you have a historic clash between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Winnipeg is able to rebound of what they've done in the past couple of weeks. Saskatchewan, of course, gets handed their first loss of the season, and I am eagerly watching this one as well to see if Winnipeg can continue to claw their way out of the hole that they dug themselves in. Meanwhile, whether or not Saskatchewan's going to be able to bounce back with Shea Patterson as their head coach, quarterback, that's crazy to think of that. But anyway, looking at this game, this could be a really big testament for Winnipeg to say, yes, we're right back in the thick of it and are going to be in a spot where we're not totally safe in terms of making the playoffs, but we're looking better week by week. Meanwhile, Saskatchewan, kind of like I talked about in a couple of videos over the past few weeks without Trevor Harris, you do get a little bit afraid thinking about the fact that they could be a team without Harris that slides. And you don't want them to just fall after getting out to a 4-0 start to the year. If you're a Riders fan, I think it's kind of concerning too, having teams like Winnipeg catching up to them a little bit, but also seeing a team like BC that's really been able to take advantage of just like the 5-game win streak they're on. Vernes looked really good. McInnes, Hollins, etc. You're getting some other players back. And a team like the Lions look like they could go out there and secure the top spot out west. So for the Riders, trying to get a testament win or statement win against Winnipeg while they're at home, and also trying to maintain pace with a team like the BC Lions, they could go out there and maybe be the best team in the league by the end of the year. I'm not going to get too biased here and say anything like that, but the Rough Riders are going to need to probably force turnovers and figure out exactly how to contain Coloros, as he did have about 300 passing yards, I believe, last game, and could finally be getting his groove and trying to break out again at this point in the year. And then you have another big game coming up as you have Toronto versus Hamilton. This is going to be a very similar situation as to what we saw with Ottawa and Edmonton, because of the fact that Hamilton is winless at this stage in the year and haven't been too far away from possibly getting that first win. I know that they've had some guys that haven't been able to perform, and I know that there's been points in the season where you're thinking, okay, well, they certainly don't feel like they're going to be a playoff team, but at this point, it's about, of course, playing for pride, but also trying to claw your way back out of it, looking at a team like Winnipeg they could say, yes, they were winless just like Edmonton and I were not that long ago, and now they are in the thick of a playoff hunt, so I think that's going to be very big. As for Toronto, they are looking to take advantage of the fact that they just got off of a big win against Montreal, and Cody Fajardo, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be out? This is all something to keep a storyline going for this, because Toronto, I said, if they lost to Montreal last week, would have been a team that I thought, yeah, they're not going to win the division. Montreal's going to march their way on and just continue. We have Sean Lemon, who is going to be out with a suspension. You have Fajardo that possibly could be hurt, as well as some other injuries that could be holding down the Owls. And for a team like Toronto that's been battling with some injuries of their own at this stage in the year, it'd be kind of nice to get a break and then pick up maybe, just maybe, an easy win against Hamilton. Although, of course, a rivalry like this, there's going to be a lot of passion in this one. And I don't even know if I've been giving my picks yet to this point in the video, but I do feel like Toronto is going to go out here and win this. I don't think it's Hamilton's day just yet, and we're going to watch out to see whether or not they or Edmonton are the last winless team after this week. But yes, I'm picking Toronto, and if you've stuck around this far, I'm going to talk about my other picks for the rest of the week at the end of the video, but I can't remember. And then you have the final game of the week as the BC Lions travel to Calgary to play the Stamps team that is looking at a team like Winnipeg and saying, boy, we are in dire straits. Maybe not dire straits, but just realizing that Winnipeg could be on the move and they could be surging, and then Calgary, if they lose this game to a team like the BC Lions that have won 5 in a row, they could be in a spot where they are hoping some things go their favor in terms of the crossover for the playoffs. I do think it is tough because Calgary ended up losing that game to the Bombers, where you had Mayer that threw for over 300 yards. You had Mills that ran for over 100 yards, and they still lost that game. But that's kind of the way it goes, and that was a much higher scoring game than I thought it would be. But Calgary, can they keep it up? Can they be in a shootout again with a team like the BC Lions, who've been able to put up a lot of yards through the air? That is something you certainly have to watch out for in this one. And if you're Calgary, you're hoping that maybe you can make some big plays. I don't think they have a lot of sacks on the year. They might be towards the bottom of the league in terms of sacks, but the Lions are up there in terms of the most sacks allowed. So Calgary hoping maybe to get Vern to where they can sack him, put him in long yard situations and be able to build off that and maybe get out to an early lead to try to get a nice bounce back win for the Stamps, because like I've said before, again, I hate to say it, but Calgary just feels like a team I wasn't really sure how I felt about them going into the year, and we're about a third of the way through the year. I'm still kind of up in the air as to what they could be. Could they make it to the playoffs? I do think so, but at the end of the day, looking at this game, I feel pretty good about BC being able to go out there and win again. Vern has been really hot, and until he's been able to be locked up, I'm not totally concerned about it. So I think I'm going to be picking the Lions here to win this, as Calgary in recent years has struggled to beat BC. So for my picks for the week, I'm going to be picking the Ottawa Red Blacks, the Toronto Argonauts, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the BC Lions. I know that probably some of those, again, seem like favorites, but they might be underdogs in certain situations. I don't exactly know what the money line is for Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, but I do think there are some upsets that could happen this week. I do think Edmonton could absolutely beat Ottawa. I do think that maybe Hamilton could pull off an upset against Toronto. All of these things are the reality of the CFL, as you'll see upsets every single week. Otherwise, if it was the case, we'd be picking the favorites. So for this, I want to know who your picks are for the week, and do you think your team is going to win? And what is the state currently of your team at this point of the year? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.